Namaskar. Hello and welcome to P Guru's channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. This is DGI-414 and I'm joined by my co-host Sridhar Chityala ji, and we have a lot of news to cover. We start with the ongoing G20 foreign ministers meeting in New Delhi, India. Sridhar ji, take it away, sir. A lot of things happening in India. Namaskar.
Namaskar, good morning to everybody. Well, lots of things happening, as you would expect when an assembly of all global leaders, especially notably the foreign ministers, meet. So I think the first and foremost message is that Modi delivers a very clear message to the world. The multilateralism has to work. Currently, it is not working, especially on strategic issues that have far-reaching consequences. Most notably, I think he's alluding to Russia-Ukraine situation, and then, of course, the Chinese situation in the South China and around the Asian region. So I think he's saying, well, come on, guys, we have to sit together and work and sort out these issues. There's no point in assembling and meeting when we don't have a framework to address. I think it's a very clear and specific message.
And the next thing is, there was a meeting on the sidelines between Lavrov and Blinken. How long was it, sir? Any idea? I mean, it's not just hi, bye-bye, right?
No, I think that there were four important meetings that took place on the sidelines along with it. The Blinken-Lavrov meeting was for about 45 minutes, along with the officials from Russia and officials from US. Obviously, there must have been some candid discussions around, the way it needs to be resolved. So obviously, they were going at each other. That's fairly evident. I don't think anybody liked Vladimir Putin's statement that, Europe has nuclear options, and so we need to look at nuclear deterrence. I don't think that went down well as a whole. So you have US view, you have Russian view, both kind of arm wrestling. I don't think much came out. The fact is that they did speak, I think, so that's a very positive development. The second one is the India-US meeting, and which seemed extremely cordial. And the focus was around, three specific areas: how US and India can continue to expand the bilateral relationship, which is actually a very positive development especially around the Biden period. People expect it to be lukewarm, but it has changed quite dramatically. The second thing that they touched on is how they can work together to resolve the Russia-Ukraine situation. And so therefore, I think Blinken went ahead and made a statement that he's counting on India's help to see a resolution. And the third, this is the common thread between India and US now, which is namely the threat of China. So therefore, they say that we cannot slacken. We have to keep our attention. And so therefore, that's an area where we need to focus. So these three topics were covered between Blinken and the External Affairs, Dr. Jaishankar's meeting. There was also then the for Chinese foreign minister, the new Mr. Qin Gang with external affairs minister. That also seems to have, obviously the focus of the discussion was around the border issues. Lo and behold, today I saw, one day after that meeting, the Indian Army put up a photograph in Galwan Valley where the Indian Army people playing cricket. So saying, hey, you tried to take a look what's happening. So I think there's a clear message going from India to China on this specific issue. So there were other meetings, but I'll pause for a second and then I'll let you kind of share your thoughts.
Sridharji, please touch upon the upcoming state visit of Narendra Modi to United States. A state visit is a lot more formal. There is a protocol involved. So talk us through that part, sir.
Well, I think it is. You can see that the US laying some very significant strategic emphasis. Two meetings have preceded. One is National Security Advisor meeting on the emerging cyber technology and other forms of technology partnerships, and then the External Affairs ongoing meeting. So this particular meet, I think they are saying they want to have a show of leadership as well as unity, and this meeting will be White House meeting. So it's a formal protocol. So they want to have a Biden-Modi meeting addressing to the world that United States and India are hand in hand in tackling very important issues that's also close to United States. One is climate, second is rules-based framework, third is China, and obviously Russia, Ukraine, and then areas of strategic cooperation. Look, India, United States and India, either number one or number two, depending on which day you talk about, as a bilateral trusted trading partner.
Has a date been fixed, sir?
I think it's September, October.
Okay. So around the UN General Assembly, probably before or after, something like that, probably. So, because usually September is when the UNGA happens, sir.
Correct.
Now let us touch upon markets. There was a fair amount of upticks in the market yesterday in the United States. What was the reason for the enthusiasm, sir?
Well, the markets were down halfway through the market, 200 points. And then the Fed governor from Atlanta, Raphael Bostic, basically made a statement. The accelerated 50 basis points is enactable. We'll try to stick to 25 basis points rate hike and continue to maintain that level till we see inflation. So it is the reduced hike in the interest rates which had pushed originally the 10-year bond rates to more than 4%, slightly eased below the 4%. And amazing numbers, when you look at 6 months and 1 year yields, they are all above 5%. But the market got some respite, and then it went the opposite way, and we finished on the positive side by 300 points. As we came into the show, the futures are pointing to an uptick. This is what I said. The fixed income, the next 12 months to 18 months, you have guaranteed yields at 5%, you take it.
Yes, indeed. And we also see that the interbank lending rates is also upticking in United States. So, so at the pump, meaning like if you go and get a mortgage loan today, are we looking at 7%? That's been like 15, 20, 25 years ago, sir.
Greater than 7%. That's what you're looking at, Sree. So I wouldn't complain. I would go and lock in that particular rate if you have not locked in that rate, because that's at prime rate of around 4 to 4.25, but the prime rate is going to go past 5%. When it goes past 5%, you can expect your mortgage rates to be around the 8 to 9% band in the very soon days to come.
Interestingly enough, the housing prices haven't dropped as much as it was expected. In some areas of America, there has been a drop, 20 to 30%. But remember, during and through COVID, the prices were going up. Go figure. I don't know how. People didn't have a livelihood, but the houses were going up. Sridharji, just touch upon it for a minute and then we'll go on to other items, sir.
Well, I think that during 2020 and 2021, there's a significant demographic as well as the shift towards various locations away from what we call as the woke and crime-ridden territories. So you have seen uptick in prices in some of those states. And there's also been migration from urban metro to more into the suburban regions. So you have also seen the uptick in the suburban prices from a cost of living point of view. So what you have seen is the prices as a result of coming off a lower interest rate and coming off the population shifts taking place as a result of the prevailing conditions will probably back to kind of normalcy. The markets are predicting a downward slide in home prices in the next 12 to 18 months.
Thank you, sir. And now let us take a look at what is happening in the Quad. The Quad ministers met. No details yet on what exactly was discussed. Sridharji, perhaps you have some inside information?
Well, I think they could not agree on the G20 communique, which is to say that condemnation of Russia's actions in Ukraine. But the Quad foreign ministers were unanimous on two things. One is they do not like war, and they do not like the continued management of this war or prolonging this war, which is causing global havoc. But they didn't stop there. They went on to say that nuclear threat is not an option that any nation should exercise post what we witnessed in the disasters that we have seen around the World War II. So I think that that was a much stronger statement that came out from the Quad foreign ministers who are present, who are unanimous and united in their views around this sustained war and nuclear threat.
Viewers, shout out to all of you to like this program. We would like to see a lot more people watching this because we are about to give you some sensational stuff. Please do like this program, and once the likes go up, automatically the search engine, the YouTube engine starts kicking into higher gear. So I hope you can do that, because the next information that I'm about to read is going to blow your socks off. Sridharji, India and Australia are signing a framework mechanism for mutual recognition of education and skill qualification. This is a big deal, sir, because it makes the jobs market go much faster, fluid both ways.
Well, I think that first and foremost, if one has ever migrated to Australia, they have a very structured process. It is what is called a formal skills-based program. They have a list of skills in demand which they can't find. So if you happen to have the qualifications which the Australian High Commission certifies, goes to the Canberra, gets certified, and then you have those experience in that specific areas, then it's a fairly straightforward migration process. And that has worked for Australia for a considerable. So now what they're saying is they're going to standardize both education and skills framework so that there is a seamless kind of flow of population and much easier rather than the smaller set of numbers that usually go on a very stringent basis. So it's a very big deal from the perspective of attracting talent and bringing skilled people into Australia.
And now let us take a look at some India news. First off, Apple's iPhone maker is going to be setting up a $700 million iPhone and supplies manufacturing plant at a 300-acre site near the Bengaluru airport in a shift from China. This has been going on for a while. The choice of location is very interesting. Now, people are beginning to expand to the north of the already north located Bengaluru airport, Sridharji.
Well, I think the Bangalore, if you have been to the airport, there's a lot of expansion taking place around that area. And the fact that they have now set up, this is the largest Foxconn manufacturing plant which is coming up in India, a $700 million plant, which will make both iPhone as well as the adjacent what you call as the spare parts and other supplies. Remember, we covered the issue of the iPhone 11 cables and other supplies plant being disrupted in Tirupati in Andhra Pradesh because of a fire that seems to have been restored, and people are trying to get it back into production. But this is a very major development. And Karnataka, which is emerging outside of Gujarat and probably UP as biggest state expansion of foreign participation, especially in the high-tech electronic industry, including semiconductor fab. Of course, Tamil Nadu has been also receiving good amount of influx of manufacturing, especially auto, into Tamil Nadu. And you have seen in Andhra Pradesh a significant amount of investments being made by both domestic and foreign companies around the heavy industries like steel and alternate energy like solar, etc. plants. I'm told that there's also going to be this hydrogen, natural hydrogen facility that is being contemplated between Hyderabad and between Andhra and Gujarat.
Thank you, sir. And now let us take a look at the 6G development. India is the third largest country for 6G development, and standardization says Nokia ahead. Nokia is now part of Microsoft, isn't it, Sridharji?
It is. So Nokia has been trying to expand its lost footprint in the so they've shifted from being a handheld manufacturer to much more networks and network-related technologies. So what Nokia is saying is that historically, Nokia was a big market for India. I can go back to 99, 2000. If you go to Finland, there'll be a lot of tech Indians, working in Helsinki, which is where the Nokia headquarters was. Now you are saying that then they lost the battle on the handsets, but they are now expanding their capability in the network and network gear area. And so 6G, they see India as a big third largest market for them, and they want to expand. So obviously mobility is one of the big areas. India is today either the second or the third. Second, I think the largest consumer and manufacturer of mobile devices. So it's natural that's also flowing into India, Sriji.
And thank you, sir. And Shopify says that India will be surpassing US as the second largest e-commerce market by the year, I have the year here, 2034. That is about 11 years from now. Yes, I do see a lot more e-commerce activity now in India, Sridharji.
Well, I think that the mobile has had the highest penetration. The UPI payments has been growing at an enormous rate. So once you have mobility as well as the payment infrastructure adjacent to it on the mobile platform, so the next thing that flows on is the commerce. It's very unusual that when I look at two markets, I can go back, I can speak with some experience as a banker relating to the Safari and I forget the name of the Safari is the payment platform in Kenya. The two biggest areas was obviously the money transfers, and the second was the personal loans. On the back of, there's no infrastructure in Kenya. It was all mobility, and then the central banks came in. So India attempted with their payment bank initiative, but they quickly moved into payments rather than other types of transactions. And now you're beginning to see pay now type of transactions happening at even small retail outlets. So that means that commerce is very much on its way. And there's no surprise here that India will become one of the largest e-commerce platforms. All this news is coming out. If you kind of break it down into three themes within India, the first theme is there's a very major event, which is G20. Around that event, you have global partnerships being developed with India as a trusted player. Then second, what you are seeing is the free trade agreements that is taking place between the countries. And the third, as India expands and builds its base from a 3 trillion or a 3.5 trillion to 5 trillion or a 10 trillion economy, 3.5 to 5 is the most immediate. You are seeing all the adjacent industries that need to develop to drive that economy forward. And you are beginning to see capital as well as the capabilities being deployed, Sriji.
Thank you very much, sir. And the apex court in India, the Supreme Court, has appointed a 6-man committee to look into the Adani stock allegations. By the way, yesterday the stock looks like it hit the upside trigger point, and they actually had to stop trading in Adani stock. Interesting, sir, that SEBI says we need to have a 6-man committee to, kind of probe what SEBI was doing. Supreme Court appoints a 6-man committee to look at what SEBI was doing, acts of commission and omission. And the Adani stock is actually shooting up. I'm surprised.
Now, firstly, Sriji, I just wrote a small 1-paragraph piece. I'm extraordinarily surprised. Have you ever seen in the United States, we had 1999 crisis, we had 1980s home loan crisis, then we have 2001, 2003 corporate crisis, this is WorldCom and etc. And then we have the 2007 and 2008 crisis. Have you ever seen Supreme Court of United States, SCOTUS, Supreme Court of United States saying, we are a law, we have to take charge and we have to set up panels and committees to investigate, whether there are markets and, and the market mechanisms are working. Now, just very similar to United States. United States has got two. One is Securities Exchange Commission, which deals with markets and market regulation. Then you have the Center for Commodities and Futures, which deals with all commodities, futures, options, all those trades. So these
CFTC.
are the CFTC. So these are the two leading institutions which does the market regulation, and it's got nothing to do with Supreme Court. India has very similar an SEC and as well as the They have just established the Futures and Commodities Committee as well. So if that is the case, is it not the SEC which is looking into this? And SEC has to supply data to some judges who are not market regulators, nor who are supposed to adjudicate whether SEC is doing a right job in terms of its market mechanism. If that is the case, why not they do daily monitoring of the stock market and have the surveillance triggers right into their courtrooms, so they can say, oh, there is an abnormal volatility, so now let us form another panel. Okay, we should form another panel, because Constitution says this is what it is. I'm not an Indian constitutional expert, but it just looks like an absolute bullshit that is being when to Modi should have addressed this in 2014 and 2015, which clearly says that when you have these kinds of issues, the epicenter of capital is Bombay. So you should have very similar to the New York Manhattan District Office, New York Attorney, Manhattan District Office, New York District Attorney Office, which is the arbitrator for any of these issues. They should have had something like that, which steps in and looks at this. No. You have to go to Supreme Court. You have to appoint a committee, and that committee has to be given data by SEC, and then they will begin to give this data to the judges. Then they will determine what they need to find out. Now, I'm asking, I mean, my head breaks. I'm an ex-City banker, I'm an ex-JP Morgan guy, and so on. Citibank and Goldman are people who have looked at it and given a loan. This is about that loan, price arbitration, and this is about a loan. And what they're saying is that, oh, those two guys, they don't know anything about, we don't care, but we'll have our own committee. I mean, it's just is. I'm sorry, I'll stop here.
Sridharji, I will add a couple more piles of cow dung, if you will. The Supreme Court is yet to take up a case in 2007 where many of the small and medium enterprises of India had been duped by their own public sector undertakings, because the the US dollar India exchange rate shot up in the reverse direction. In other words, there was so much money flowing in via participatory notes that the rupee started appreciating alarmingly for exporters who were not prepared to deal with being, at the back end. So for that, they went and bought some derivatives, and then as soon as the thing switched directions, all the money that they had put in the derivatives completely evaporated, and they had to close many SME units at that point of time. That case is still not even being picked up by the Apex Court. 2007, 16 years. MSMEs are still waiting for, just open that case and look at it. Another one, 2013, IPL, match fixing scam, a list of 13 players. Today, some of them are still plying their craft in various countries. The envelope hasn't been opened by the Supreme Court. What are we talking about, sir? This is something like a charade. That's all I say. I don't want to say anything more, because the moment I have two sore spots in India. One is what you said, SEBI, incompetent, nincompoops. I don't think they even understand the meaning of these two words, because that's how their judgments are. Sometimes when they come up with their readings and resolution, it's just BS. That's all it is. Anyway, let's move on, sir. A lot of cleanup needs to be done. You are not going to get to 5 trillion, 8 trillion, 10 trillion unless you fix your markets, you bring in transparency, you make sure that people can get the right price for their product in the marketplace. That's not happening today. I don't know when it will happen. Sorry, sir. I also go on a rant anytime markets come up in discussions. Now, let us take a look at Russia-Ukraine war. This is a separate section that you've got today. Viewers, please like this program. We have another 2 or 3 big items to cover. So I'm going to rifle through some of these news items. Russia must be punished for Ukraine war crimes, says Blinken. Biden and German Chancellor to meet in US to discuss nuts and bolts of Russia-Ukraine war and China concerns. Russia's Wagner Group head says Bakhmut is practically surrounded as war in the east intensifies. Germany, under the radar, commences training of Ukraine forces in the advanced air defense weapons. Please take it away, sir.
Well, I think what you're witnessing is the dichotomy and the concept that Modi alluded to, multilateralism in terms of resolution failing. So Russia has taken a position that it is going to come what hell or heavy water it's going to take east in the eastern region. So the Luhansk and the Donetsk regions. So the this Bakhmut is in the eastern region, and it is, I think, steel mines and other places. So they are surrounded by the Wagner group. It remains to be seen. I have a feeling that Ukraine may lose or retreat in preparation for another day. While this goes on, you can see now how quickly Germany has altered its position. Remember, Olaf Scholz visited, German's chancellor visited actually China, and we covered this in DGI and discussed as to how to kind of work together. Now, the German chancellor is telling the Chinese, do not aid Russia, but work with Ukraine on a peace plan so that there is a resolution. German chancellor is also working with United States to make sure that there is both arms on one side and trying to get a peace on the other side. What Vladimir Putin is saying is, you guys are talking about your side of the story. I have my side of the story to sell. You want war crimes? We have enough evidence to prosecute the Ukrainians on war crimes in terms of what they have perpetuated in the East. So how do you see a resolution to this when you have two entrenched parties with their own set of data, Sree? There is no outcome. So Russia-Ukraine as a separate section will continue because it has got catastrophic consequences to supply chain and the world. And, therefore, we'll continue to address this with the hope that we will see a resolution very soon on top of the inflation issue that we are dealing with.
And in US news, President Biden says he will visit East Palestine sometime in the near future amidst growing pressure. This is the place where that gas leak took place, where people have still not been allowed to come back home. Sridharji, what is the latest on this?
Well, the latest is that they are slowly trying to restore normalcy. But the fact is that millions of barrels of water has got contaminated. The soil is contaminated. How deep the toxicity of the impact of the toxicity of the spill is yet to be ascertained. And for whatever reasons, both Mr. Pete Buttigieg as well as Biden, are very reluctant to address this issue. And there is a clarion call from the community for Biden to come in and at least to give the words of touch. And now the Republicans are saying that all that is Republican territory. So that's why the Democratic president doesn't want to visit. It's very astounding that we have not seen this type of an incident where a US president has not gone to a place of such profound disaster.
In fact, even Donald Trump had visited, I think, about 10 days ago. So there is pressure building up on that side. So we have to wait and see how that plays out. Sridharji, another interesting information. The Senate unanimously passes a bill to declassify COVID-19 Wuhan lab leak intelligence. Sir, yesterday I saw an interview with Fauci and he was still sticking to his guns.
Fauci is not going to change. CDC is not going to change. So what you're going to find is once they declassify these documents, obviously Energy Department has released, as obviously the FBI has released, Chris Wray has released the data. So once they declassify the documents, we're going to come to know as to what exactly was going on and why these people were reluctant to share the information. So I think it's good in the public knowledge that this comes out. What is already known, what's already whispered, is now will come to light.
Well, they have 300 such labs all over the world. So United States, it's the responsibility of United States, which created these labs, to make sure that nothing hanky-panky is taking place in these places. I don't see any mention of anything here on this. So we have to wait and see whether they pick it up from DGI and tomorrow somebody talks in the Senate or the Congress. Then you know that they're all watching. You are watching, aren't you? So next, Senate to investigate the intelligence report that deliberately sidetracked the Hunter Biden laptop media story. Yeah, suddenly that has gone out of sight, sir. What is going on?
All these things are going on, sir, except that we just have enough bandwidth to cover all the news. So I think this Biden laptop story is going to resurface. They're going to declassify the documents. They want to go after the intelligence officials, subpoena them, and find out who asked you and why did you hide this information and why did you direct the media to suppress this information. So that's going to come out, Sree.
I hope so, sir. I mean, see. We were one of the first ones to say that a hidden hand is running this Biden administration. Even more so now, we stick to our guns. Say the hidden hand is still running this administration. Biden's physical health is okay. What about his mental health? We'll keep asking this question until that is also released. And what is vinyl chloride scaring the president from going to East Palestine? So we'll have to wait and see what the correlation between those two is. And now let us take a look at my phone is also playing hooky today. House Republicans also introduce a bill to combat foreign espionage and influence on college campuses, most notably by the Chinese Communist Party. This should have been done 15 years ago, Sridharji.
This should have been done 15 years ago, but Sree, if you go back to 2008, 2009, around the time they started to perpetuate. So you have significant amount of footprint of the CCP within major universities and schools. There's a lot of cross programs that happened between China and the US schools. Now it is very profound within even Ivy League schools. So the institutions have become what you call as the vestibules of Chinese advocacy. They are very successfully used by the Chinese government. We again covered in DGI, a database comprising of more than 3.6 million names who are in positions of power within various countries and in very strategic areas. These educational institutions are most notably the centers of conversion and covert activities. So I think, again, it's good that the House, which is now under the Republican control, is taking it up as a bipartisan. Now, the Democrats are joining in many of these committees, recognizing, elections are coming, as well as there is much at stake for United States and for themselves.
Now, it turns out that marijuana is being grown right inside the United States. Here is an interesting news. Are the Chinese and Mexican nationals largest growers of indoor marijuana plants in the nation's largest county, San Bernardino? The local sheriff department confirms the reports. For those of you who may be curious, this is the county that gave us Richard Nixon. Over to you, sir.
Well, I think San Bernardino County in the greater Los Angeles area is a fairly large terrain. Now, people have been saying, remember marijuana got legalized, right? So where is it growing? They found out, because there is an enforcement process if you are doing illegal kind of growing. The sheriff enforcement department is now reporting 85%, over 85% belongs to these two, and they're all being grown indoor within. And vast number of them are not Americans, but they are Chinese and Mexicans within this community. And it is a very revealing news. Like this, we are swept under a vast plethora of news that is happening in United States, and much of it has been submerged, but slowly beginning to come out. And, it's a cause for great concern if you happen to be a US citizen.
And we just have a couple of news items before we wrap up. In Asia news, Philippines defense chief tells United States base deal is not aimed at war. Japan to unify self-defense forces data into a unified central cloud. So Japan and Germany, these are the two nations which kind of demilitarized after the Second World War, are now beginning to ramp back up, Sridharji.
Indeed, I think that it's a reinforcement that Japan is. We have covered quite a few Japanese items in the last few days. You can see that the self-defense forces are organizing themselves in anticipation, in preparation, should there be a threat of war from China emerging in the East China Sea and South China Sea.
I'm going to read a news item, but before that, I'm curious. How many of you know the name of Singapore's foreign minister? If you know it, please write in the comments. I'm not going to say the name until the end of the program, and I'm just going to read out the statement. Let's see how many of you know who it is. Don't Google. Be faithful. Be honest. US and China need to engage completely and comprehensively to de-escalate tensions, says the Singapore foreign minister. Sridharji, don't say the name.
Well, I think that Singapore is the epicenter of trade and commerce after the absorption of Hong Kong into mainland China. So there's a growing concern that they are also the leaders of the ASEAN, and they're saying with a clear voice, guys, you need to just, this is following what Prime Minister Modi has said. You need to sit down and speak. War is not a choice, and you're not going to get anything out other than disaster being have reaped on the nation. And many people here are livelihood depends on the day-to-day stuff. And this is, they don't fight the war here, it'll cause havoc in the economy.
Singapore can be called as the Dubai of the Orient, or Dubai can be called the Singapore of the Middle East, whichever choice you take. But we are still not going to disclose the name. I don't see anybody mentioning anything. So let's move on. We will say it at the end. Other world news: Israel slams dangerous socking of two Iranian ships. I think it is docking. I don't know. You can tell me, sir. In Brazil, UK seizes smuggled Iranian weapons in the Gulf of Oman. I'll stop here, sir. Please go ahead.
So I think there are three important. Iran is the other major news item is Iran. Two, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard ships, managed ships turn up and they dock in Rio de Janeiro port in Brazil. Lo and behold, not too far from United States. Why do they dock? They're military ships, and why they've been allowed to dock? Well, you can know that when Bolsonaro changed, we have Lula. Lula is very sympathetic, left communist guy. So why are these ships? What is the purpose? What are they doing there? So rightly, the question has been raised. There's also been a number of interceptions of the Iranian vessels, both across Gulf of Oman and other places, where they have seized military equipment and other types of machinery. The question is, who are they supplying to? Where are they going? While Iran continues to deny it is giving drones to Russia. Then the third, the much discussed topic is nuclear. Iranian nuclear ambitions. Nobody is bothered, but IAEA wants to resume discussions with Iran on the nuclear situation. So we have another subtle volcanic point developing around the Iran Sree, and these things are all kind of bothering.
Thank you so much, Sridhar ji. And the name of the Singapore's foreign minister is Vivian Balakrishnan. I'm surprised nobody even looked up Google. Come on, guys. I would have expected you to be at least cheat a little bit. Anyway, it's an important thing because as we see, more and more people of Indian origin are occupying high political spots. And this is a very welcoming sign. India always has had a very good balanced approach to life. And let's hope that this continues and that continues to benefit the humanity. Sridhar ji, thank you so much, sir. We covered a lot in a 37-minute window. Thanks once again. We'll be back again next Monday, bright and early. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Have a wonderful weekend.